What if every decision you've made today wasn't really yours at all? Recent studies show the average person is exposed to over 5,000 manipulation attempts daily through social media, advertising, and personal interactions, and we're completely blind to most of them.
That's a chilling thought. And what's even more disturbing is how sophisticated these manipulation techniques have become. We're not just talking about basic persuasion anymore.
Right, we're dealing with neurological warfare. The science shows that manipulators are literally hijacking our brain chemistry. Take dopamine for example. Social media companies have entire teams of neuroscientists designing addictive feedback loops.
And those notification sounds and red dots aren't random at all, are they?
Not even close. They are precisely timed to create what scientists call variable reward schedules, the same principle that makes gambling so addictive. Studies show that uncertain rewards are actually more addictive than consistent ones.
Well, that explains why I keep checking my phone even when I know there's nothing important waiting. But let's talk about how stress hormones play into this.
Oh, this is fascinating. When manipulators trigger our cortisol response through fear or urgency, our prefrontal cortex, the rational thinking part of our brain, essentially goes offline. We literally can't think straight.
So that's why those limited time offer tactics are so effective, even when we logically know better.
Exactly. And here's where it gets really interesting. This ties into what neuroscientists call the amygdala hijack. When our emotional brain takes over, we make decisions we'd never make in a calm state. Studies show we're up to 400% more likely to make impulsive purchases under emotional stress.
That's wild. And I imagine this plays into those 7 manipulation techniques you mentioned earlier.
Let's break those down, starting with gaslighting. It's particularly effective because it exploits a quirk in human memory. Our memories actually change slightly each time we recall them. Manipulators use this to make us doubt our own reality.
That reminds me of that famous experiment where they convinced people they'd met Bugs Bunny at Disneyland, which is impossible since he's a Warner Brothers character.
Yes, and about 30% of participants created false memories of meeting him. This same principle applies to the guilt trap, the second technique. Manipulators exploit our natural empathy and desire for social harmony.
And that ties into the foot in the door technique too, doesn't it?
Precisely. Research shows that if someone agrees to a small request, they're up to 135% more likely to agree to a larger related request later. It's why those free trial offers are so effective at converting to paid subscriptions.
You know, I've always wondered about love bombing. How does that work on a psychological level?
It's actually based on intermittent reinforcement, one of the most powerful behavioral modification techniques known to psychology. Studies show that unpredictable rewards create stronger neural pathways than consistent ones. That's why love bombers alternate between extreme affection and withdrawal.
That's so insidious, and I imagine social proof plays into this too.
Oh, absolutely. Research shows we're 400% more likely to believe something if we think others believe it too. That's why fake reviews and bot followers are such a huge industry, worth over $1.3 billion annually.
Well, that explains why companies invest so heavily in creating the appearance of popularity.
And then there's the scarcity illusion, artificial urgency that triggers our loss aversion bias. Studies show we feel losses about twice as strongly as equivalent gains, which is why fear of missing out is such a powerful motivator.
So how do we protect ourselves against all these manipulation techniques?
The key is developing what psychologists call metacognition, thinking about our thinking. Research shows people who practice metacognition are 70% less likely to fall for manipulation tactics.
That makes sense. It's like developing an immune system for your mind.
Exactly. And just like physical immunity, it requires constant maintenance. Studies suggest we need to actively question our beliefs and decision-making processes at least once a day to maintain psychological resilience.
You know what's fascinating about all this? Once you understand these patterns, you really do start seeing them everywhere.
And that awareness is our best defense. Because here's the thing, manipulation only works in the shadows. When we shine a light on these techniques, they lose their power over us.
That's really empowering. It's not about becoming paranoid, it's about becoming conscious.
And that consciousness is the key to freedom. Because in the end, the most dangerous manipulation is the kind we don't recognize. When we can see it, name it, and understand how it works, we take back our power to choose.